my name is Robert.
We are your Mugiwara Authority, your source for all things One Piece and One Piece related. The date is May 21st, and chapter 748 just came out, entitled Repaying My Debts. Robert, what'd you think of it?
I thought it was okay.
You know what? Me too.
Yeah, it wasn't like super amazing. Like nothing really huge happened. Well, I mean, a couple like significant events occurred, but nothing really major happened in this chapter.
Yeah, compared to the last good chunk of chapters, we've had some crazy events happen. Things have been happening all over the place with a lot of different characters. This sort of just felt like kind of a nice little it was
kind of like a push.
A little bit of progression, you know, but not much more than that, really.
Yeah, it was kind of just like a push forward in terms of the plot.
If I'm being entirely honest, too, I felt like there was reintroductions for characters that I'm not saying that they're unimportant, just that I don't care about them all that much. There are characters from the Colosseum, and it's good to see that they
like
are...
Blue Gilly or Idio or whatever?
Yeah, just characters that... I know them more by design, almost, than by who they really are, or their names or anything.
Which is kind of...
They're just characters from the Colosseum, and now here they are, you know, whatever.
It's one of those things that I've noticed has been occurring more and more since the Whitebeard War.
Where we'll get, like, designs, and we'll kind of affiliate characters with their design more than their actual name and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely agree with you in the sense that for the Whitebeard War, that the New World pirates, like, I remember what those guys look like, and I remember some of their ability, but I don't really know their name or anything about them.
Right. There's a number of these huge, like, captains, division commanders, or whatever that we don't know anything about.
Well, it made sense to me in the context of the war, kind of, because it's sort of a foreshadowing for the New World. And,
True.
And it makes sense a little. You know, we don't need to invest in these people. It's not about them. The emotional core of that arc was all about Luffy and Ace and all that whole struggle.
True. But I mean, like, for their short appearances, we kind of connected a little bit more with, like, Jozu and Marco and Oars Jr.
Absolutely,
especially Oars Jr.
Well, Oda went out of his way to make us care about Oars, and his backstory is very tragic. One chapter
brought me to tears, man.
Well, it's not that I don't like Don Chinjiao, but he's probably the one I like the most, you know?
Yeah, he has the most kind of insight into his character development and all that.
Mm-hmm.
We have a little bit of that from the Giant just because of his connection to Usopp.
And I like that it's clear that he'll have a connection to Elbaf. I mean, it says he's an Elbaf warrior. And I like that kind of foreshadows something big with Usopp and Elbaf, but...
We also have Cabbage and, you know, the King of Prudence, who's going to play a little bit more of a significant role, which...
Or will he? Like, just because he could punch hard once every...
Well, he mentioned... I think this is the second time that he's mentioned it, but he has kind of a debt, or he has connections to King Riku.
Okay, yeah, he did mention it. You're right. He did say something about that, and I think he's mentioned it before.
So there might be a little bit more development on at least that particular kingdom's part. Maybe not in terms of the king himself, but for that kingdom.
It's funny because last chapter we kind of talked about how there was a lot of different story threads moving along at once and sort of slowly. Well, this chapter really did just focus on one part of the story.
Yeah, one single subplot, and kind of helped push the story forward, kind of push time forward.
But even then, I don't feel like we progressed that much. For it to have just focused on one part of the story, I don't feel like we got...
We basically went, Luffy and them got sent flying, and then they ran back with allies.
Yeah, essentially. We got the cow, we got the giant.
I love that cow.
Me too. There just wasn't a lot in this chapter that stood out that I really loved. It was okay.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't, like, even gag-wise, there just wasn't a lot here that I found, like, really fascinating or fun.
For me, I remember I had a complaint that it seemed out of character for Luffy to be helping them out.
You know what? I thought about that more recently, and I think you're wrong. We should talk about that a little.
Well, here's the thing.
Go ahead.
I can see your side of it or whatever, how it's in his nature to want to help them out. But for me, I was just like, it doesn't really fit his character. And then this chapter, we find out that the only reason he's helping is to pay back a bento.
That's true.
He's paying back him getting food.
Yeah, I mean, but damn it, I was reading a part of One Piece this week, and it dawned on me that Luffy does care about helping people. And I wanted to bring that up with you, but I can't remember what I read. But I'm pretty sure it was post-time skip.
Was it post-time skip or?
I feel like it was. You know what? I think it was during Punk Hazard. I think he decided that he had to help these kids. He couldn't just. He said something along the lines of, "We can't just leave them here. Like, we have to help." And it's sort of it is. out of
It
Luffy's
seems-
character a little bit in the sense
So it's
that
kind of like a maturation of his character.
okay. I feel like he's evolving just a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
Where we were both kind of against that idea before, and I agreed with you that Luffy didn't really need much of that, but I feel like we're getting a little bit more of that from him now.
And it's okay in small doses. It's just one of those things where it's like, I hope he doesn't suddenly become like the hero of every kingdom that he comes across.
Well, in a sense, he's been doing that accidentally, which is much more charming than him being heroic.
Yeah.
You know, like
Well, that's what I'm saying. I just hope it doesn't become a thing where he's suddenly this big hero.
Yeah.
And like he becomes intentionally a hero.
I agree, because I guess when you look at like Drum, for example, it's very heroic the way he like is holding the flag and standing up to Waypole, but those were all sort of things he was doing in defiance more than as a hero.
Yeah, he was kind of doing it to kind of uphold the idea of dreams. Like he has a major dream or whatever, and like that flag stood for something. He didn't know. I don't think he knew what it was at the time. Did he?
No, he mentioned I don't know what this like. Whoever is waving this flag is waving it for a reason. Even though I don't know anything.
Basically it's important. So
I think that was important in the story in the context of the story at the time, because it was like, well, this is like Chopper slowly warming up to them and realizing that they're good people.
Yeah,
because he had this romanticized notion of what pirates were, you know.
And so did Luffy.
Yeah, exactly. He did, but
and I think that's part of why he helped defend the flag, the Jolly Roger.
oops. Yeah.
Stop throwing money, man.
I don't know. I left this chapter just a little cold. Whenever I have these kinds of chapters with One Piece, I look back at it and I go, well, you know what? It's just going to be one chapter out of 10 or so in a volume on my shelf one day. So it's no big deal. You know what I mean?
Right.
Years later, I'll look back at this chapter as, oh, well, it just progressed. It wasn't one of those big chapters. Like chapter 500, right. I'll go back like, oh, chapter 500. That's when we got Rayleigh again, kind of thing. Or chapter 731, we get Sabo and he's back. You know, like those kinds of things, they stick out to me. This one, it's sort of inconsequential, but it's not a bad chapter.
Yeah, it's important. We need it to help progress the story. It's just one of those things where it's like not all that much happened.
Okay, do you feel like maybe Oda isn't the best at progressing the story a lot in a chapter? Because other series like Toriko, for example, I feel like he could cover a lot more ground in a single chapter than Oda can. Even
did you read the last chapter?
I did, yeah.
So much craziness.
Yeah.
Steel clouds and gold swamp and maze.
I was 3 chapters behind when the new chapter came out today of Toriko, and I read all 3, and it was fucking crazy. Honestly, I was more enthusiastic about reading those than I was the new One Piece chapter. And I mean, I'm a huge One Piece fanboy, but it was just a solid chapter.
It's kind of
out of 10, it was very much a 5 or a 6. It was one of those, you know?
Yeah.
It was solid, it was fine, did what it had to do, but it just didn't leave you going, fuck yeah, oh my god, crazy.
Yeah.
You know?
It almost didn't even leave me excited for the next chapter either.
Yeah, kinda, which is really fucked up considering at this point in the arc, literally every chapter has been giving me that, where I'm like, oh, what's gonna happen next? Maybe it's the lack of Doflamingo in the chapter.
I mean, like we get this huge ominous image of them fighting. Well, not really ominous, kind of a tide-changing incident where they're fighting off Pika. Giant Pika broke his arm.
How big do you think Pika is relative to some of the bigger characters in One Piece?
Well, we're looking at his fist, and he is larger. His fist is larger than Chinzhou, who is relatively large.
Well, I'm not saying he's smaller than a giant. I'm saying like compared to Oars or Oars Jr. or San Juan Wolf. Like how big is he compared to those guys, do you think?
Well, how big? Well, it's a little hard to say for San Juan Wolf.
I doubt he's as big as San Juan Wolf.
I don't think he's that big.
He might be bigger than Oars though.
I really think I think he's bigger than Oars, because like how big is Oars' fist?
It's pretty big.
I mean, like it's big or whatever, but I mean like it didn't make Luffy and them look like specks of dirt or anything.
That's true.
Whereas Pika's kind of like dwarfing giants and making giants look like Luffy and they did when they were fighting Oars.
Well, I'd have to see that part again, because if he's dwarfing giants, then he is much bigger than Oars. Because Oars, it's confirmed that he's about 2.5 times the size of a giant.
He's dwarfing giants, yeah.
Yeah, okay, well then he's way, way bigger than Oars. He might be as big as San Juan Wolf then. I don't know. I'd have to really look at it. I do know he's fucking huge though.
Yeah.
It's funny, like we're talking about Pika and I'm kind of getting excited and it's making me go like, how did I not find this chapter more exhilarating? Because Pika's huge and it's kind of awesome.
It's kind of
I
like
wanna,
it's weird.
you know what? We might have the same problem that we waited for the chapter to come out in the morning. So I read it.
True,
I read it
yeah.
at like 3:30 in the morning. So I was just like, okay, now I'm gonna sleep.
I basically I read it and I don't remember falling asleep.
Yeah, I read it, and then I read. I was gonna start reading UQ Holder. You know, is that the name of it?
Yeah,
The-
UQ Holder.
Yeah, the new series from the Love Hina Negima mangaka.
Yeah.
I didn't though. I didn't start reading it yet. Actually, Negima is the lead-in to that series though. Like,
Oh, it's a lead-in?
Yeah, you know the vampire girl that you meet at the very, very start of
Yeah.
UQ Hold. That she's a character from Negima.
Oh, she is.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. She was a fucking badass character too.
Oh, cool.
That series is very polarizing in my own mind, but she's a good character. She's cool.
So that basically it suffers kind of from what Fairy Tail suffers from.
No. If anything.
Well, not
okay. Well, explain to me what you mean exactly from that.
We're kind of not like in terms of actual content or whatever, but kind of like it's polarizing. Whatever it is, it's polarizing. People either like it or they hate it. But
Well,
there's
I wasn't saying in the context of the fandom or anything. I was saying in my own general opinion. There's parts of Negima and there's aspects of Negima that I love, and there's so much about it that I hate. And I guess you could kind of say that about Fairy Tail too.
Yeah.
In a way. But I feel like there's more that I don't like about Fairy Tail, if I'm being completely honest. I was looking at his art. I think I told you yesterday. I was looking at it, just pictures of his art, Hiromashima, and goddamn, could that dude draw? And it makes me want to just start reading. I stopped at like 303, so it's been a little while, but I wanted to start reading it again just because of his art. It's crazy.
It's good art, but it's I don't know.
I think if you have real shonen sensibilities, like if the shonen style and look really does something for you, then you'll like his art a lot, kind of thing. You know?
It's weird because it has that, but it's also like extremely etchy.
True, that too.
So
but I mean,
to the point where it's kind of like it's kind of detrimental.
That's when it's a problem for me, you know, because it's not that One Piece hasn't gotten growingly etchy over the years, because it has.
It has, but it's not.
But it never
it's
really
not
takes
affecting
the
story
focus
really.
away from the story. Yeah, I always make the comparison that, okay, well, here's Lucy and Erza, and there'll be like panels that from the camera. Essentially, like from the camera angle, it's clear that the panel is like centered around their tits or their ass or their pussy, like whatever.
It's very fan servicey without needing to be.
Yeah, where Robin and Nami or Boa or whoever will be in the panel and they'll be hot, but they'll just be being hot around the panel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's never the focus of the panel. It's never about that. It's just that they're existing and they're sexy. But Lucy being sexy will take up the whole. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I always felt like that kind of got in the way of what I'm supposed to be seeing this world as. It kind of
gets in the way of the storytelling aspect. It kind of gets in the way of some of the character development.
I'm sorry.
What was that?
That was a mega awesome video game that I'm playing right now. Accidentally hit the volume.
Okay.
So yeah.
Well, that's an interesting parallel too with Negima. That's one of my absolute least favorite things about Negima. And I'm not even one of these people who is against fan service in the way that a lot of people are. I don't really mind the fan service in Fairy Tail that much, or even in Kenichi, which I quite like the series, not the fan service.
Yeah.
The fan service
The series itself
again,
is...
as long as it's not really taking too much away from the story for me, it's fine. You know, it's whatever.
Right.
But Negima, well, it starts out as a what's the type of series where it's like one boy and a bunch of girls?
A harem?
A harem. It starts out as a harem, and about 11, 12 volumes in, it finally turns into more of a battle series, like more of a fantasy battle series.
Okay.
And that's when it gets really fucking, well, parts of it get really good. But I hate the fan service in Negima. It's so uncomfortable. These girls, like, okay, Mew,
like they look like children,
like
basically.
Mew is pretty young in Kenichi. She's like 16, right? When we meet her.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
they're high school students.
But oddly, it doesn't bother me too much because she doesn't feel like super young. You know what I mean? Like
she basically has the character design of an adult female.
It's nothing that you wouldn't look at and go like, well, that's a 12-year-old. But
right.
But there's plenty of that in Negima where it's like
where it's kind of
it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know, I just don't like that I own that. I would hate for like my parents to like see that I'm reading this, or like my cousins or my niece or some shit.
Yeah.
To like open up my manga and go like, what the fuck are you reading? Are you fucking smacking your dick to like 6-year-olds and shit? Like, no, no, thank you. I wait till they're 16. Thank you very much. As long as they look womanly. But on a real point of contention, I really don't like that about Negima. And it made me go like, dude, if this guy really tried to make a great battle fantasy series, I would probably love it. So I'm really hoping UQ Holder is exactly what I was hoping it would be, but I don't know.
I'm kind of... It's starting off pretty good. Like, I only read like the first like 10 or so chapters, like the first dozen. But it's not like super harem-y or whatever. There's no real like, oh, here's fan service, and that's the focus of this chapter or whatever.
Yeah.
There's not like so far I haven't seen any of that.
Like,
but then again, like I said, I'm only like 10 chapters in.
Like I love Kenichi, even though I'm about 80 chapters behind, and I kind of skimmed through the newest chapter, and there's just flat out nipple now. Like there's not even hiding it.
He kind of just stopped caring.
Yeah, it's like, well, here's nipple, and I still defend Kenichi, so it's not like I'm just against fan service.
Yeah.
So I kind of flipped through the UG holder because the first volume's out in English. UQ, I'm sorry. So UQ holder, the first volume is out in English. And they have it at Barnes & Noble, and I was just flipping through it, and I think I saw like one panel that looked kind of ecchi to me. But
there's like one panel, but it's like the adult character.
Yeah, and it's not a big deal to me.
Yeah, it's not that big of a deal.
Because compared to early Negima, you could flip through random pages of the early volumes, and there's so much. It's
just kind of bad.
Well, some of the girls aren't like young, but there's a lot of girls, and some of those girls are really young, at least by design. So it's uncomfortable.
Design-wise, yeah.
Like some are a little older, and I guess that's a little bit better. But the younger ones, it makes me really uncomfortable to read. I mean, even Kenichi goes down that road a little bit with that one girl, you know.
Oh yeah. I forget her name, but that was really only one time.
Yeah, but that was the only time it made me uncomfortable. It's a long series.
It did make me
Right?
a little uncomfortable. Yeah. Are you talking about the
she like goes to school with them, and
the disciple, the other disciple?
Yeah, I think so. And she's very young. I don't know. It was like the only time that the fan service in Kenichi like flat out made me go like,
Yeah, it was a little weird. Like it's moved away from that for her, at least for her. She's the only character that I've seen, the only female character in the current arc that is currently fully clothed.
Good. That's the way it needs to be.
It needs to stay that way, yeah.
Wait till she develops a little bit, dude. Then get her naked. Fine. How do you think Oda handles fan service? Because that's a major complaint a lot of people have, is that it's gotten progressively ecchi as the series has gone on.
I think he's handled it a lot better than other series have. I will say that he's handled it a lot better than other series have. Some instances are a little kind of like I don't understand why it's there.
Okay. Yeah, I'll agree.
Like we both kind of agree that Alvida eating the slip fruit or whatever and then suddenly becoming an attractive woman was not really needed.
Not only was it not needed, it was a detriment to her character, I think.
Yeah.
It took away whatever was unique and interesting about her, and you made her just one of these many bland, pretty Oda girls. You know,
Yeah.
Oda has a very specific, like, pretty girl look, and what he did to Alvida was just make her, like, part of the bunch. Part of the group, you know?
She became another one of those characters.
Yeah, and maybe it was earlier on that she turned into a pretty character, so maybe it didn't. But looking back, if you just look at all the female designs, she doesn't stand out anymore.
Right. She could have, like, if she would have stayed that way or whatever, like, she could have gotten the slip fruit or whatever, as long as she wasn't, like, as long as it didn't have that weird side effect of making her look like a beautiful woman.
And I think it takes away some of the fun gags. I think a big fat crazy Alvida would have been really funner with Buggy.
Especially considering, like, part of her character was the whole thing that she thought she was the most beautiful person in the world, and now she actually looks like a relatively attractive person.
I feel like her character is sort of lost, too, because she doesn't act the way she does when she was introduced. She was like a loudmouth, like, fucking, she was throwing that club around and shit.
Right, she kind of sits back on the sidelines.
She's become much more docile. So not
Buggy,
only did he like,
she's kind of become Buggy's bitch.
Not only did she become a bland looking character, she became a bland character.
Yeah,
entirely.
just in general.
And it's not that she was a fantastic character to begin with, but she had more potential than what
charisma
happened to her.
She had a little more charisma as the monster,
and much more individuality.
That she was. Yeah,
you know, I would have loved for her to stay fat just to see Kobe fuck her up as a fat person. Like that would have been
that would have been funny.
You know what I mean? It would have been like, oh, cool, he beat her. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and then
he was essentially a slave by her for a few years, so she got her comeuppance. And then now he smacks her down. Now it's like, oh.
now it's kind of like, why did you beat that beautiful woman?
Maybe that'll set up a fight with Sanji.
Yeah.
Ooh, I could see that.
Okay, so it's redeemable if that happens, though. So Kobe would basically have to take down Alvida in front of Sanji.
Well, it's funny because you look back on those early chapters, and Luffy just fucking he gum pistols Alvida. You know what I mean? And nobody goes like, "Oh, poor Alvida."
Yeah,
she's fat, so we're okay with it. I don't want to fuck her, so whatever, go ahead. But now if he does that, I don't know. Like I think it's weird.
It's one of those weird things.
It's sort of a comment on how we view attractive people and stuff.
Yeah,
it's sort of like what Disney does, where if they're ugly, it's okay if bad things happen to them, but if they're pretty, we kind of sympathize. You know,
yeah,
it's a fucked up thing, but it's sort of how we've been brainwashed our whole lives. So now,
which is actually something that early One Piece did well. It was like, oh, if they're ugly, they're not necessarily bad.
He's made a point of that. I think he's made a point of of showing like, oh, this guy with a big green fro and he's stuck in a treasure chest. He's a really cool person.
Yeah.
And these fucking stupid cat brothers, and they don't look like they're gonna be strong at all. They're pretty strong.
Pretty damn strong.
He plays with people's idea of like a shonen archetype, and you go like, okay, well, you know, this character looks cool, so they're gonna matter. But then they don't always matter, and they're not always strong, or they're not always good people. I think he plays with that more, and maybe that's part of the problem with the increasing fan service in the series is that it kind of lends itself to like.
It's kind of stereotyping, like, okay, now we can start seeing, like, okay, this person's relatively good looking, so they're probably a good person.
Do you think it has damaged Nami, the character, at all in the way that it's damaged Alvida? Because she was kind of against that whole idea before. She was.
I think it does damage her character a little bit because she was very tomboyish at the very beginning, and I believe you pointed this out in Rogue Town when they go shopping or whatever. She's looking at all these girly clothes and stuff or whatever, and she's just like, I don't like this. I don't like any of this.
Yeah, she says, I like comfortable clothes.
Yeah.
That's what she says, and she leaves without buying anything.
And those jeans don't really look comfortable.
Well, I mean, she's just wearing like a cotton shirt and just shorts. Like she's
wearing a skirt and a t-shirt.
Yeah.
That's basically what she wears.
Yeah.
In early One Piece.
It looks functional. Well, compared to a fucking bikini top, you know,
yeah.
It's pretty functional.
And that actually doesn't look very comfortable either.
I want to say another an important, well, not really important, but an interesting fact about that scene. What Oda's doing when she's trying on two outfits. The first one are clothes that are very reminiscent of Robin, and the second clothes are very reminiscent of Boa. If you've ever looked at those panels.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So essentially, she's wearing clothes from characters that are being foreshadowed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So, but yeah, she goes out of her way to say like, oh, I like comfortable things, and now she wears a fucking bikini top and jeans, and like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't.
I think her design would be a little bit more pleasing for me, at least in terms of like the way her character is, if she was wearing a skirt still, and if she was wearing some kind of like shirt, like something that looks like it might be comfortable.
When she was wearing the bikini top during Fishman Island, I kind of thought it was something that was going to stay with that arc, you know? But clearly it's carried over to every other arc.
Now it's like kind of part of her outfit.
It's how she wears all the time.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, what happened to wearing just a comfortable skirt or whatever, comfortable shirt or whatever, and just kind of keeping that somewhat independent personality and character design? Now that she's become more, like, I don't know, she's become more like, almost exhibitionist in her attire, it's kind of taken away from some of her character.
I feel like Nami always used sex to her advantage. You know what I mean? A little bit, but it's so overt now.
Yeah.
It's so like that's part of who she is to the point that it kind of bothers me a little. Just a little.
Yeah,
I don't even care. I'm not like a lot of people feel that way about Nami, and you especially feel that way, but I don't really mind her design. I don't care. I mean,
well, like I don't have a problem with it if it was going to be like a one-time thing or whatever. Like kind of like what you were saying, how you thought it would be like specifically for Fishman Island.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't have had a problem with that. And
because I thought Fishman Island was going to be kind of beach themed or something, you know, like water themed. Yeah. So it made sense to me, you know. But
now we're going to Fire and Ice Island.
Literally Punk Hazard. Yeah. Like, come on. It's like, put on some fucking clothes.
I mean, she did. She had a jacket, but then Sanji took it off.
Yeah.
Poor Nami.
I wonder what Sanji really did. Come on, like what did he really do? Like off panel, he fingered himself.
He did everything imaginable.
I don't blame him. It's whatever.
Well, I mean, we already know he looked.
Oh yeah, for sure.
He definitely looked.
I mean, a normal guy would look, but he's like into her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a crazy thing, like going into the body of. Oh, you know what? I do random.
That's actually kind of weird.
I do random chapter reviews for my YouTube channel, and I got a chapter from Punk Hazard. I think it was 5 or 665, and I was thinking about the things that I don't like about Punk Hazard, because it was an interesting chapter. It kind of it had the good things and the bad things within the chapter. And for me, things like the whole body switch thing and the Yeti Cool Brothers, they were things that just sort of weighed down that arc that we didn't need. And maybe the whole body switch thing will come into play later on with Law. Maybe he'll use it to their advantage at some point. But at this point, I don't know. If it doesn't come back around,
it definitely seemed to foreshadow that he's a lot stronger than he used to be.
Well, definitely. He's much stronger. But we got that on his introduction, where his room was much bigger. He was toying with the giant, like, Navy warships and shit. You know, like, he's clearly much stronger.
I mean, like...
when you start switching people's personalities, then you get to a weird area. Like, he's got a very broken ability. It's a strange ability.
That's what I'm saying. Like, we're seeing now that he's come into his devil fruit a lot more. Like, it's not just oh, I'm more capable in using it for what it is. He's gotten a lot more creative.
Yeah, he's definitely gotten creative. I don't know. I don't know if I ever loved that part. I mean, I love parts about that part. It definitely had some good gags. I love seeing Frankie inside of Chopper and the way all the ugly fucking faces he would make in Chopper's body, and then Robin be like, "Don't ever say anything again.
Don't do anything ever again."
It was funny.
Frankie's just like.
Yeah, those were funny moments, but I don't know. I just felt like there were aspects of that arc that didn't need to be there, and it made the arc much longer.
I think most definitely the Yeti Cool Brothers, only because like they're there, they do what they do, they get defeated, and then they're gone. They're not important anymore.
I feel like they're there to hype up Law a little bit. That's all. Like it feels like the arc, in a lot of ways, is there to hype up Law.
Which they did a really good job of hyping him up, but they didn't need the Yeti Cool Brothers. It's just one of those things where it's like, what were they doing? They're kind of weird in design, too.
We never really get to see them that well. We never get like a good detailed look at them.
Yeah.
They're always sort of in silhouette.
And it's just weird because they're obviously not normal humans. They're almost giants.
I wonder if they're an offshoot of giants, and maybe that is foreshadowing for Elbaf. Maybe there's like civil wars going on within Elbaf of different types of giants.
There's like a lot of racism between the giants or whatever.
Yeah.
So some kind of social themes.
I mean, we sort of got a little bit of that with Saul and the way he kind of spoke about the Elbaf giants, and he said I'm not one of those barbarians, those brutes, you know. So maybe there's different sects of giant. And we see Ors and Ors Jr. and like clearly there's something different about them.
Exactly.
I mean, they're both really big and horns and all that shit. You know, they're not the same type of giant.
Yeah. Oh yeah. What was that theory you were telling me about Ors?
Well, it's not so much a theory, so much as something I noticed, and I've never really heard people talk about it. Is on Punk Hazard, there's like a warning sign, and you see like a giant-looking thing with horns, and of course it reminds me of Ors. Yeah. And what they're doing on the island is that they're making artificial giants. Yeah. So, I forget which character. I think maybe it's Chopper. Somebody mentions that they've been trying to make artificial giants for centuries.
For hundreds of years.
So to me, that means that maybe Ors and his offspring or different members of like the Ors family, people that look like him, maybe they are artificial giants.
Which is actually...
Or an early like archetype of artificial giants.
Which is actually a theory that I think kind of holds ground a little bit, because there's only... As far as we know, there's only Ors and Ors Jr. that even look close to that.
Yeah.
So, it makes sense to me. But there was another theory that you told me about. I don't know if it was yours or if it was someone else's. Something about his nickname.
The continent puller.
Yeah.
I think I thought about that. Well, okay, what did I say? I know I was thinking about this a while ago.
that Ors the continent puller has something like the whole idea that Pangea might have actually been One Piece, and that Ors the continent puller isn't just a nickname, that it's a literal name that attributes an event that he's performed.
Yeah, okay, well, that's fascinating. We'd have to kind of go back and figure out the timeline a little bit.
Yeah.
But in case you guys don't know, you listeners out there, you don't know, there's a very popular fan theory that Pangea has something to do with the One Piece world, that there was, at one point, all these parts, these islands, everything was connected, and that is the One Piece. It's like this very in-depth fan theory that you could go find if you're interested. We'll try to find it and link it in the description. So, I was reading... Thriller Bark, I think, a while ago, and I was thinking, like, the continent puller, that's a very strange, you know what I mean? It's a very strange alias, it's a very strange nickname. Could that be literal? Like, why not? Could Ors and people like Ors have literally pulled continents?
I mean, you look at Thriller Bark. Thriller Bark is an entire island that has been turned into a ship.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's entirely possible.
That you could mess with geography?
Yeah.
You could change the shape of the world? I think so, too. and it seems like too random for me that Oda would
give him
introduce such a character who lived so long ago.
Like explicitly state that this is his nickname, what he's known as.
It's not like Oda for that to be unimportant, you know?
Right.
So we'll see. I wonder if that has any relevance in the past. Maybe we'll see Oars' real personality in a flashback at some point.
Maybe.
Or maybe he like leads an army of people much like him, and they literally pull continents somehow.
Yeah, it's possible.
That would be fucking crazy. Yeah. It's funny because he's so big, but now we're getting, we've met San Juan Wolf, and now we're getting Pika. Like
fucking San Juan
Wolf. Like these characters that are even bigger.
I like the idea that this is something that I thought about. I like the idea that San Juan Wolf is one of the previous experiments, and that's why he was in.
Even the Yeti Cool Brothers. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities that these giants are.
But I definitely like that idea because it also helps to explain why they would put him in level 6.
People were saying, do you think they built Impel Down around San Juan Wolf?
That's something that you told me about, and that's actually very possible because he is huge,
really huge. To get him into a building is a crazy idea. He's fucking huge.
Like you look at the gates to Impel Down, Impel Down or whatever.
Yeah,
there's no way he could fit through those.
No way.
So he definitely had. How did he get out? That's what I want to know.
People were saying that Blackbeard probably absorbed him with his darkness fruit, and then, and then unleashed him.
So, that actually makes sense. Yeah. Unless Impel Down just straight up got destroyed, but that wouldn't explain why we see it in the time skip, the where they're at now cover stories.
I always kind of thought that Blackbeard, his darkness thing was sort of rapey, so that's kind of weird, right? To okay, get inside myself, and then I'll like.
I think Caribou's is a lot more rapey.
Yeah, I agree. That one's almost clear because those poor mermaids.
I know, dude. Oh god. That's actually that's interesting though that we have these implications of these horrible acts or whatever without them being explicitly like stated or mentioned or shown or whatever.
Rape and things of that nature.
The whole idea that Nami in her childhood was raped
by the fishmen
that took over her village. The kind of clear idea that Boa and her sisters were raped during their captivity.
I would say with Boa, it seems clear to me. Like it seems like it's nodded at very clearly. Like, hey, this probably happened, you know. But with Nami, it's a little bit more ambiguous. It totally could have happened. A lot of people have theorized that it could have happened. And in that sense, she forgave Hachi and Jembe and those kind of people really easily. You know what I mean? Like she was like, okay, well, you know, Hachi's harmless and Jembe's sorry. Like that's okay. Like, but that's not something you just get over. You know.
Well, true, but like she never got over Arlong. She still hates Arlong to this day.
Maybe the implication then is that it was just Arlong. Like it wasn't like a fucking crazy gang rape or some shit. Oh my god, it's so horrible to say because she was a little girl. It's so horrible.
It could have happened later on, like as she matured. Like it didn't have to be like, oh, she's a kid or whatever. Because like when they first saw her, like she was really good at drawing maps. That's why they hired her or whatever. But like when we meet her at the age of 18, her hatred and fear of Arlong is really, really ingrained in her.
Well, I mean, that could be from years of enslavement, and also the introduction of him to her was fucking shooting her mom in the face.
True.
So, I mean, there's a lot of ways that she could be terrified of that guy.
True.
I'm not dismissing the idea that she was sexually abused, though. I really think that that's a real possibility, that you could look into the series in that way.
Like, it doesn't even have to be Arlong. It could be just, like, when she's out trying to make money and stuff. So things could have happened.
I was thinking about that with Robin, actually. Like, did she have to sell her body to become part of these criminal organizations?
I think Robin,
to an extent, you know.
I think Robin is the only one that I would have to say probably does not have rape in her past, because she's very
strong and
she's very shrewd.
She could be very standoffish because of it, though. It could have happened. You know, it's all.
Well, no, she was very shrewd as a child because like we have the panels of her flashback or whatever. That seemingly nice old lady that takes her in or whatever, who turns her in, or whatever.
That's true.
So like she learned from a very young age not to trust literally anyone.
That's true, and I like that Oda's been very consistent with that. Like before the time skip when she's getting taken in by the revolutionaries, like she wants to stay kind of at a distance from them for a while.
Yeah, she didn't trust them at all.
She didn't even really want to be in a closed room with them yet. You know, like it took her a while. I really like that. Talking about this, I think is fascinating. Do you think that Oda doesn't really use? Okay, maybe he uses rape to give us pathos in the sense of like the females that could have gone through sexual abuse, but more importantly, he creates monsters that way, like people like Karibo or Spandam or Arlong, or the Tenryu Bito. Like, do you think he's like creating characters that are really truly loathsome?
I think because
in the implication, because I'm not saying that.
I mean, like, dude, you look at Arlong or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Just from what we know about him or whatever, he's already a villain. Like, not really a villain, but a bad guy or whatever. And I mean, like, he kind of has justifiable reasons for his actions, but at the same time, he's still a racist. He's still enslaved children or whatever to do stuff for him, and there's the strong possibility that he had sexually molested Nami. So I think that theory of that theory and just that idea that it could have happened just turns Arlong into that much more of a monster.
He's like a symbol for something horrible. You know, he's like a symbol for abuse.
He's kind of like he's like a byproduct of the racism that fishmen suffered from, but it's a very dark byproduct. It's not like
this is such a dark, depressing podcast.
I know.
This is like the most it's rape. I hope you guys are enjoying this.
I'm sorry if we brought the mood down.
No, but I think it's kind of important to talk about these aspects
really
of One
is,
Piece.
yeah.
Because I think that's sort of what one of the many aspects that makes Arlong such a great villain opposed to like a Hody Jones,
right?
You know, where Hody Jones felt so much flimsier. Like we had so much less reason to care about that guy being evil.
Yeah,
you know?
he was just like, okay, we're gonna do what I want to do right now.
Well, he killed Otohime, you know, so
he did that too.
There's aspects about him that we should loathe, but it just feels so much clunkier than Arlong. Like Arlong is truly loathsome. Spandam is truly loathsome. The Celestial Dragons are, we really genuinely hate these people.
That guy almost died.
Did you ever feel that we didn't talk about it really, did you ever feel that there was implications of abuse between Spandam and Robin? Like, just at least in terms of imagery, it feels like that's what Oda was evoking.
What do you mean?
Because he had her handcuffed and she was wearing something very short and provocative, and he was like beating her up and pushing her around and yelling at her. I'm not saying he raped her, but it felt like he was evoking that imagery. It
didn't feel like he raped her or whatever, but it did feel like he was very much kind of dominating her.
Yeah.
Which nothing really sexual, but it kind of the same reason that that psychopaths rape people. They do it for
control.
For control and domination.
It's like prison rape. Like they're allegedly, I mean, I don't know. It's such a distant mindset from my own, but allegedly they're not attracted to who they're raping. It's about control. It's about
right.
like a hierarchy.
No, I mean like just rapists in general.
Yeah.
Like a lot of what they do, it's to assert their dominance over their victim.
Yeah.
And he might not be raping her in the physical sense, but he kind of is
emotionally,
symbolically.
Yeah,
he's symbolically raping her because he's asserting his dominance over her. He's beating her down, he's breaking her will, and all these abusive things. He's doing all these horrible abusive things to her while she's in captivity for that short period of time.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating to think about how Oda makes villains truly like horrible to us. And I think that's an interesting tool that he uses that maybe people don't talk about too much. And maybe it's a little sad because he's doing it kind of at the expense of the female characters in the series sometimes. Boa is very powerful, but knowing that she's gone through that, it adds elements of like, we sympathize with her.
It kind of explains why she doesn't like men.
Oh, definitely.
It definitely explains that. It explains why she's so shocked that Luffy just doesn't give a shit.
It explains why she really cares about Luffy. Like,
true, yeah.
Because Luffy like symbolizes all the things. He defied them without caring. Like he literally just fucking almost killed one with a punch. Like that guy could have died. Like,
dude,
I think his name was Roswald.
Yeah, he still got saved. He would have died before Luffy punched him, even if Luffy did almost kill him, because Zoro was about to cut that guy in two.
Well, I'm just saying, like Luffy, if you think about how strong Luffy is and how hard he punches, he could crush boulders really easily, So
he probably broke that guy's skull very easily.
Yeah,
very easily.
Probably.
Especially because
he was pissed.
Because
too.
they seem so...
He was literally dancing over a bloody Hachi. He's just, I shot the fishman. Is it free? Is it a free fishman?
It's weird. The Tenryu Bito seems so frail and flimsy. Like
I
they
think
seem
that's
so,
how Oda makes them so
so fragile.
I think in a way that's how what Oda's saying is like there's nothing good about these people. There's no like if you want to evaluate Crocodile, there's as much to love as there is to loathe. You know,
He's a strong he's a strong person.
He's an awesome character. He's exciting. He's he's
a horrible person, but I mean like. At least when we meet him, he's a horrible person.
But there's so much to like about him,
yeah.
too. Like, as in terms of a character. Where the Tenryubito and Spandam, I think those guys, essentially, and maybe a Helmeppo, like, when we meet him, is, like, the first archetype for this type of character. Like, there's nothing good about these people.
It's weird it's weird that you bring up Helmeppo, because he kind of does have that twisted personality when we first meet him, but he's going through this kind of redemption process.
We've seen a few redemption stories in One Piece, but I think his is one of the most fascinating.
Yeah.
Because he was in line with those characters. Could you imagine ever liking Spandam? No. Right? I mean, and it's not that I like Helmeppo, but he's definitely a better character than he ever was.
It's weird because you look at you can actually do a very, very interesting character analysis comparing Spandam and Helmeppo, because both of them ended up in a situation where they're kind of following in their father's footsteps. But Helmeppo's doing it to kind of distance himself from his father, whereas Spandam's kind of doing it to kind of literally follow in his father's footsteps, gain that same kind of recognition and glory.
That's a really interesting parallel. I've never really thought about those two together, but it's true. Like, I think Oda's made a lot of comments on how fathers and how, like, where we come from, how that affects who we are.
Yeah.
And it's funny because those are two examples of blood fathers, like real genetic
fathers,
yeah.
biological fathers,
opposed to like so many that aren't, that are great father figures,
like Whitebeard,
like Zeph,
Zeph,
Shanks to a varying degree, that kind of thing. You know, like these characters
I would have to say that Shanks is less of a father figure and more of a mentor.
I would agree. That's why I said varying. Like he's definitely not. But like people that are like actually your real, like Garp is not a very good grandfather. You know what I mean? He left them
with bandits.
He left them with bandits. He beat them a lot.
Yeah, you look at Dragon. He basically abandoned Luffy.
Keep it on the door. It's like jiggling a little.
Yeah. Like
how long have we been going for?
We've only been going for like 50 minutes.
50 minutes?
Yeah.
Should we take like a break? Like cut the podcast into the next segment?
50 minutes.
We're at 42. We can go on for another.
No, let's keep going for a little bit.
10 minutes or so?
10 minutes.
Okay. This has been a really weird podcast.
Yeah.
Because we talked about fan service and then rape and then what makes horrible characters. Like this has been a sad podcast.
Somehow it's transitioned into father figures.
Yeah, well, I think father figures is a fascinating subject in One Piece. Because like I said, I run an evaluation thread on Arlong Park, and we did Helmeppo a while ago, and I was thinking like that's funny that he's one of like the earliest characters that we meet that like has a father, like a real father, a dad, and they have the worst relationship, and he becomes a good character once he distances himself ideologically from his father, and physically. Like once he really distances himself from Morgan is when he starts becoming his own man and starts becoming a decent human being.
And then you look at Spandam or whatever, who he's like he's proud of everything that his dad did. He's proud of the fact that he destroyed an entire island and an entire people and all that stuff. Yeah. So it's
all about like rising in the ranks for them.
Yeah.
It's all about obtaining more power.
It's just interesting how those two bloodlines kind of branched ideologically.
Sabo's real father. What a dickhead that guy is.
Oh yeah. Oh, horrible.
Well, I mean, Dragon, I don't know, like
he doesn't seem like a bad person, but
not a good father. He's Goku.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was going to point out. He like we were talking about this yesterday, while hanging out or whatever. But like Dragon is basically kind of like Goku. Goku's not a great father.
We did not say that yesterday.
We didn't say no. We
were talking about Goku. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm saying like Goku is not a great person. Or
no,
father. Sorry, I don't know why I said person.
Yeah, my analysis of Goku is that he is a great guardian, but that gets in the way of him being a good father.
Yeah.
He's not a good father.
He spends a lot of time away from his family willingly.
Dude, I was listening to the Kanzenshuu podcast today, and they say there's an interview with Toriyama where Toriyama just straight up says, like, yeah, Goku wasn't supposed to be a father. Like, he's not meant to be a father. He's not a good father.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
I'm surprised Toriyama just straight up said that shit.
I agree with it.
No, I agree too. Like, I'm just surprised to hear it from the man himself.
I agree that it needed to be. I also agree that it needed to be said by Toriyama because
Is it weird that there's no spite between Gohan and Goten as far as I mean, I feel like there's implied spite with Chi-Chi, even though it's never out there.
what do you mean?
Like, she has to be upset at Goku by the way that he handles being a husband and a father.
Well, like this is something that I mentioned the other yesterday. You look at Chi-Chi when she's first introduced and she's all happy-go-lucky and stuff like that, and then we see Chi-Chi in the Z era post marriage and all that stuff, and she's a lot angrier than she used to be. So she has to have some, like, she loves him, yeah, but I mean, she has to hold a lot of resentment.
There's built-up frustration.
Yeah.
And just because she was a happy-go-lucky young girl doesn't mean she wouldn't have been a strict mother anyway. Some
Right.
some girls, that's just their mothering parent, their parent style, you know.
Well, she's like that with Goku in general.
Yeah, well, he's difficult. You know, he's a difficult man.
But
so.
I mean, like when we first see them together or whatever, she's never like that with him or whatever. He's like they get along really well, and
Goku's. She's like, I don't think he's that interested in her.
well,
though.
he's not. But I mean, they get along. Is what I'm saying. Like we see them. We
Like,
see them.
do you know the whole thing about like why he agreed to marry her?
He thought. Well, I know he thought it was a food.
He thought it was food. Yeah. And she comes back at the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai, and she's like, "You promised to marry me," and he had like no idea what she was talking about. He's like, "Well, I promised." So that's why they got married. Literally,
Yeah, because he promised her.
when he was a 12-year-old that he would marry her when he thought it was food.
Yeah.
And then there was Gohan.
Yeah.
So really, because Goku thought marriage was food when he was 12, that stopped Cell essentially. If you
Basically. But yeah, it's just one of those things. Like we look at Goku, we look at Dragon, we look at Garp, we look at all these father figures. A lot of them, they're not really great father figures. We look at a character like Whitebeard. He's not blood related to any of those people, but he's
a great father.
He acts like a really good father. Like that's his like reason for being almost.
Like that panel with Squardo after Squardo had stabbed him, and he hugs him and calls him an idiot, but he loves him anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a beautiful scene.
And then we look at Kairos, and how like he's really the only instance of a blood-related father figure that actually gives a shit about his kids.
Yeah, he was cute with Rebecca. Like
Yeah.
he wouldn't even want to touch her because
He didn't want to soil her. Yeah,
People compared it to what's his name from Full Metal Alchemist.
Hughes.
People compared him to Hughes, and I thought that was pretty apt. Like, yeah, Hughes is just
fits, yeah.
he's so cute with his kids, you know. And also, it's tragic, but you know, whatever.
It's very tragic.
We don't have to go there. Hughes making me cry all the time.
But like, I know this isn't One Piece. Like we go to Dragon Ball Z or whatever. We look at Vegeta, and he's gone from this horrible person or whatever, and he's kind of filled in. He's kind of fulfilled. He's realized the role of the father figure and a husband. Like he's realized this good guy role. He's no longer just kind of like a dick.
Yeah, well, he's still sort of a dick, but yeah, his character transformation is fascinating.
Yeah,
in that he's a truly fucking just horrible person. He commits genocide commonly. Like he goes to different planets and destroys the planet.
Like Saiyans do that in general.
Yeah, they do.
Like that was part of their nature.
It's true, but clearly they're capable of more. They're
Right.
capable of better.
No, right.
We even got that with Goku's mom when that's been recently revealed.
Yeah,
that she was
crazy.
That she was a good-natured Saiyan. So we know that was a possibility. He was just an evil dick back then.
Yeah.
Even throughout the Namek arc, he was just randomly killing Nameks and stuff. He was a fucking horrible person, even that far into the series. So, and it was clear that he was frustrated. I think he was like going through growing pains throughout the Buu saga because he chooses to be evil for a while, like even that far into the series.
Yeah, he chose it. He didn't. It wasn't like it was actually one of those things where he basically says when Goku's talking to him as he's possessed by Majin Buu, he's like, "This was the only way that I could do this."
Yeah. And we definitely get like okay, we were talking about Vegeta yesterday, and we were saying like, okay, he doesn't save Bulma and Baby Trunks when they get attacked by the androids.
At the very beginning. Pre hyperbolic time
chamber. At the
chamber.
beginning of the android saga.
Yeah.
But then years later in his timeline, because he did live through the hyperbolic time chamber, when future Trunks was attacked by Cell and almost killed, he goes
straight
berserk.
up goes berserk, yeah.
Yeah, so we see quite a bit of growth from Vegeta just in that Saiyan Cell saga time.
Yeah, and then with the Battle of the Gods movie, we look at him or whatever, Bulma just gets hit. and he goes berserk against Bills, god of death and destruction.
In that sense, we think he's a better husband, right?
Yeah.
Because I think he's closer to Bulma than Goku is to Chi-Chi.
He's very much closer to her. He cares a lot more.
It seems like it. It seems like he actually
Yeah.
spends more quality time with her.
He
I can
definitely
imagine them
does.
having more like chats, you know,
Well,
like, talking about their lives a little bit.
Think about it like this: where was Goku when Bills attacked?
He was on King Kai's planet?
No.
No?
He was on King Kai's planet when Bills attacked him.
Okay.
But where was he when Bills showed up at the family gathering?
I don't remember.
He was just watching. He was just off in the sidelines watching.
Where was he, though? Was he at the party just watching?
He was just he kept his distance. He was just watching because he saw Bulma get hit.
He's known Bulma longer than Vegeta by like a lot of years, like a long time.
He saw Bulma get hit, and he actually says you should let Bulma get hit more often. And then Bulma goes and just beats the shit out of Goku.
I need to rewatch the movie.
Yeah. So Goku was there when Bills was there attacking like his family, Vegeta, Bulma, and all of them.
It's weird. Well, maybe Vegeta's become a better person than Goku.
He kind of has.
Well, I told you yesterday that Toriyama said he wants to make Vegeta a protagonist in the next film.
Yeah, which would be interesting.
It would be, and I think it's funny too because Toriyama stated that Vegeta is one of the few characters that he didn't like for the longest time. Like Vegeta had to grow on Toriyama too, and now he's a character that he wants him to lead a movie. Like Vegeta's an interesting character.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know who his favorite character is?
I believe you told me. I forgot though.
It's Piccolo.
Is it Piccolo?
It is Piccolo. Yeah.
King Piccolo or Piccolo?
Well, he when he says his favorite character is Piccolo, he does reference Piccolo Daimo. He says like I created him and he looks so scary and also he had a funny name, so he's my favorite.
So probably King Piccolo.
I guess, but I don't know. Maybe he says he's so cool that he's his favorite character because he's cool, and he is fucking cool.
He is, yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. I like Piccolo.
Yeah. Who is also a better father figure than Goku.
Yeah, he was very close.
Who raised Goku's kid.
It became like a running joke that he kept saving Gohan in the movies.
Yeah.
Like the movies aren't canon, but he saved Gohan on like every fucking movie, like over and over again.
Hi, Dad. Hey, you.
Oh, in like Team 4-Star in a bridge. Like, hey, Gohan. Like, he doesn't give a shit. Like, oh my god, that whole scene where like, oh, Gohan's really acting up. Piccolo better have a talk with him. Oh my god. I laughed so fucking hard when I saw that.
Oh, man.
Oh, Piccolo. Goku's the worst. Like when Goku comes back after the whole Namek thing, and then he goes to Yardrak, he comes back from Yardrak, and then in a bridge, he's like, "Okay, well, we got to get ready to train." And Gohan's like, "Wait, so I don't see you for like years, and the first thing you do when we get back is train to fight more people?"
Yes.
Did you watch the new episode of Abridged yet?
No, I didn't. I need to.
Have you watched it?
Oh, I don't think so.
Oh my god, Cell just came in.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, and he's got
you told me about that.
Dude, he's got the creepiest entrance. It's really good. You guys gotta watch it.
So is it? Would you say that his entrance in the Abridged is actually better than his introduction into the actual Dragon Ball Z anime?
I don't remember. Like, I feel like my first my memory of his introduction is him literally like fucking impaling and sucking up that random citizen.
That's how he's introduced.
That's
in the
pretty
anime.
awesome too. Like it's kind of hard. I don't know. Maybe that's better, but this was like really short. This was like a couple seconds, you know. So it wasn't like a scene almost. It was like a
literal just introduction,
a teaser, really. Just like, oh, this is what's gonna happen in the next few episodes. Ooh. You know, you had a cool design. Like we were talking about this yesterday.
Yeah, I like his initial design better.
The best
than, out of all of them
of the 3 or 4, whatever.
Yeah.
I do too. I definitely don't like the second form, the imperfect form.
I think it makes sense considering that it's imperfect.
Well, I mean, no, I'm sorry. It's actually called semi-perfect, I think.
It's imperfect.
The first one I think is imperfect. Right? Is that right? It's like imperfect, semi-perfect, perfect.
I thought it was just cell, imperfect cell, perfect cell.
Yeah. And then I think they call him like 100% perfect cell when he comes back.
When he goes buff. No, 100% perfect is...
No, it's when he comes back after he turns back into imperfect, and then he explodes, and he comes back as perfect. So
oh, is it?
He's stronger. He has a Zenkai boost because he's part Saiyan. So he's like 100%.
I thought his 100. I always thought his 100% perfect cell was when he did what Frieza did, and which was powered up to the maximum to gain power, but exchanging his speed.
I'm pretty sure it's reference to after because he gets a big Zenkai boost from fucking killing himself. Why didn't he just explode over and over again? He would have gotten so like crazy.
He probably
strong.
didn't think about it.
How did he become perfect? How did he even become perfect after he exploded?
His cells remembered his perfect cell state.
I guess.
So he regenerated as perfect cell.
I guess it seems like such
That's
bullshit.
yeah, it is.
It's such a
But I mean,
cop-out.
but basically that's the explanation. The explanation is that his cells remembered when he went and regenerated or whatever. He regenerated his body in its perfect form.
I do like Perfect Cell. I think he's got a cool look. I know you think it's kind of generic, but it looks very Toriyama like to me. Like it looks something
I think his.
very sleek. Yeah.
We were also talking about this yesterday. I think it's actually because we talked about this yesterday that I feel this way. I feel Cell shouldn't have been destroyed. I kind of feel like it would have been interesting if he'd lived, like if he just won and then went like galaxy hopping or whatever.
Yeah, we were talking about that a little. Like, we were saying, like, what would he have done if he had won the Cell games and just killed everybody? Because he wasn't really driven by destruction or by ruling.
Exactly,
or
he just
anything.
wanted to defeat Goku.
He wasn't like a being of destruction like Boo, or he wasn't something that was going to rule over hundreds of planets like Frieza.
Yeah.
What would he have done? He's not an android, but he's kind of like the androids in the sense that he's sort of just there for one purpose, and that's to defeat Goku and to be the strongest on Earth. And then after that, what's
I think
what's he gonna do?
I think it would have been interesting to see him just go planet hopping. after
Oh
that.
yeah, what we got to was that he might fight
that he fights Deborah.
Deborah, yeah.
Yeah.
Who Toriyama said Deborah and him are as strong as each other.
Like that would have been crazy if he goes planet hopping or whatever. Then when we get the time skip or whatever, it's Majin Buu saga. Then Deborah shows up, and then while they're all doing everything that they got to do, Cell comes and fights Deborah. Like he just reappears.
It would have been a cool OVA, like
Yeah.
just like a what if OVA, like Cell versus Deborah.
Dude, that would be crazy. That would
pretty
be
badass.
awesome.
I remember Deborah, but I feel like he didn't really get a chance to shine because he was sort of like the secondary villain in that. I mean, obviously he's not as big as Boo. You know what I mean?
He almost felt like somewhat of an anti-hero.
He was
at
sort
some
of.
point. He became a little bit less villainous.
I think because Toriyama said he's as strong as Cell, he feels sort of like an analog for Cell, and it's sort of like a way to gauge how strong they are now compared to the Cell games.
Yeah.
So he was sort of just there. I mean, but it still would have been cool to see them fight.
I think it would have been awesome if Cell just went planet hopping or whatever, and then he comes back because of this power, because he sensed this power surge or whatever, and he's still in that mode where he wants to test his strength, kind of like Goku.
Really quick, I want to say that I do like Cell, the first version of Cell, because he seems more like a monster. You know what I mean? He gets more like, is it like anthropomorphic? You know what I mean? Is that like
he's a lot more
like we add human features to things that aren't humans? Like that's He's more like a dude wearing like a bug costume or some shit.
Basically,
where when we meet him, he's like this monster. He doesn't have even a mouth really. Like
he has a mouth, but it's
like a slit. Yeah,
it's like one of those weird cricket mouths.
Yeah.
Got like a minute.
Okay.
We're gonna be taking a break right now, so we'll be back in a couple minutes.
See you guys. Boop.
So, who would you compare Cell to in One Piece?
That's a fascinating question. Oh, really quick, our producer has gotten a mic, and now we are a three-man team.
Jesus, I am here.
Introduce yourself, Nick.
I'm Nick.
So that's Nick. He was bored just sitting there on the board, so he wants to join in the conversation.
Yeah.
Let's give Nick this question. Nick, who do you compare Cell to? Who is the equivalent in One Piece?
I have no idea. Let's analyze that one for a second because that's pretty interesting.
It is interesting. And I have no idea what my answer will be.
Yeah,
I don't either.
I think he caused a lot of chaos, and he was specifically out just for Goku. So who has a very specific purpose?
So are you saying that he's Smoker?
Smoker is an antagonist. You're right. He does have a very. I mean,
and he's very obsessed.
I would think more of 16 and Smoker for whatever reason. I don't know
Really?
why. Well,
16.
Because I feel like 16 isn't a villain. He doesn't have villainous qualities, but he is programmed to go after Goku.
But then he goes and he sacrifices himself for.
Eventually,
Yeah. So it's one of those things where it's like,
dude, I told him yesterday. I don't know if you know. I've been listening to a lot of people talk about Toriyama interviews and stuff. Okay. So apparently Toriyama's recently said that Dr. Gero fashioned Android 16. Do you remember who that
Yes.
was? Okay, he fashioned Android 16 after his own son.
Jesus.
Yeah.
How big is his son?
He's tall. He's a tall boy. But his son was a commander in the Red Ribbon Army when Goku destroyed the Red Ribbon Army. And I think the assumption is that maybe Goku didn't kill him directly, but
he's responsible for his death.
yeah,
Wow.
that's heavy, right?
Yeah.
It gives some pretty crazy insight into the character too, because it's like, what if the reason that 16 was a failure and wasn't finished, wasn't complete or whatever, is because Jiro was still trying to like implant 16 with his son's brain, or he had failed to implant it.
Well, no, I'm pretty sure 16, or his son rather, is very long dead.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, he could have also been trying to like maybe reprogram the personality of 16 to resemble his son.
Okay.
And that might explain why he was a failure and wasn't completed.
I don't know. That one's...
That's pretty fascinating,
that's
though, right?
crazy.
Yeah.
Like, he's fashioned after his own son. It's crazy. He also released the names of androids 17 and 18.
He released... Really?
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about
What
that.
are the names?
I'd have
Do
to
you
look-
remember?
I
I'm
don't
going
know.
to look
I'd
it
have
up
to look
right
it up.
now.
Yeah.
It's Lapis Lazuli.
Yeah, Lapis, that's 17, I think, and
Yeah.
Lazuli is 18, I think. And it's a food pun, of course. As-
It's a little less fulfilling than I was...
No,
right?
it's,
Yeah.
no, it's
Yeah,
a stone.
I'm sorry?
It's a stone.
Really?
Yeah, like a gem.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
Yeah, Lapis Lazuli is a stone.
It's Dragon Ball, so I assumed it was.
Who knows? Maybe there's food called Lapis and food called Lazuli. Who knows?
Maybe.
Maybe their names are actually like rabbit and lasagna.
Okay, there's like a debate going on that people have that all these little facts that Toriyama are giving us, it's making the Dragon Ball world smaller in a way. Like, it's taking away some of the mystery. Like, would you agree with that, maybe?
Well, I think the cool thing is, no matter what he releases, you could take and leave what you want through the season and the series and whatnot. That's why there's Dragon Ball Z Abridged, and they're remaking that whole season or the whole series in a very different image, a more not realistic, comedic modern comedy as well.
Yeah.
So that, I think that's, as long as other people take it different ways.
Yeah, okay, I could see that. But I think when you're looking at the overall canon of Dragon Ball,
Like if you're looking at Dragon Ball the series, just like the series itself, what Toriyama created, does it feel like it's expanding the universe, or does it feel like it's kind of like filling in the gaps and shrinking it a little bit?
oh, you even made a point yesterday about the end of Battle of Gods, where they said that there's 12 different universes, and
it very
and then they're at the 7th, and in
Yeah.
a way that expands the universe, but in a way that caps it off also.
Yeah.
In a way, it's like, well, that's it though, which is big, but it's also
It's
definitively
big, but
it.
it's definitive. They've given a definitive size to the universe.
Yeah, so in a way, it's sort of double-edged.
That's severely large anyways.
It is
Like
fucking
12
large. It
Yeah,
is pretty-
12 universes. It's
But he
Jesus.
was fighting the
Second
second strongest in the universe.
in one universe.
Yeah, in Universe 7, Goku was fighting against the second strongest.
What if it's a weak universe? What if it's the East Blue of universes?
Then we might have another 250 years of Dragon Ball.
We probably will. It's a cash
yeah.
cow.
I'd go for that.
I really liked that whole thing, honestly, because I never liked that Goku was strong to the universe around him relative
Yeah.
to, like, everything around him, every being that you could even imagine. It has to be some fucking ancient monster like Boo, who was very, like, Lovecraftian in his,
Yeah.
in his design, or something like a fucking, a galactic overlord emperor.
Galactus.
Like Frieza. Galactus, though. Oh, he would fuck up everybody. He's way stronger. That's a whole different debate. I want to get into Western comics and how they apply to Dragon Ball. Oh, shit.
Oh god.
Well, let's see. Let's see. 12 universes.
Yeah.
Now,
I feel like
So that means if we're going by the exact math, there's 14 people out there stronger than Goku.
Yeah.
Okay, which is way more than before. That's 14 more. I mean, the only other ones who were debatable were like Fusion people and Gohan, maybe. Like,
but here's the thing: how many of those would we be able to consider villains? We could say like maybe half of them is a good number.
I don't even know if I would think Bills or Beers, whatever you want to call them. I don't
Bills?
even know. Well, but there's other translations because it's
yeah,
kind
I'm
of
calling him Bills.
it's kind of a beer pun. Anyway, I don't even really think of him as a villain. He's an antagonist.
Yeah, but I mean, like, how many would you be able to consider antagonists?
Well,
Like-
it's up to them, you know. If they
Yeah, I
wanna
know,
make
but I
all
mean,
of
like,
them.
because some like he's kind of a god of destruction. That's kind of what makes him an antagonist. Like, if you're the god of life, you're not really gonna be.
It's stated though he's
Killing
one
them.
god of destruction. They all
Yeah.
have their own gods of destruction.
Yeah,
so there's
so-
at least another 11 god of destructions out there.
Well, how many are there? 12?
There's 12
Yeah.
universes.
So there's 11, but he's not necessarily the weakest one either.
Well, he wasn't even the strongest though.
He wasn't the strongest, but he's not the weakest. So if we put him somewhere in the middle or whatever, that's what, maybe 6.
He was significantly stronger than Super Saiyan God
sorry,
Goku
maybe
though.
like maybe 5 or 6 villain gods of destruction that are capable of destroying or defeating Goku in Super Saiyan God form or whatever.
But he's significantly stronger than Super Saiyan God. It wasn't even very close.
No, he fought at like when they were fighting at when Goku was fighting at max power as Super Saiyan God, Bills was using 80%.
I believe, yeah. I believe Toriyama's given us actual numbers, and he said that Super Saiyan God, if Super Saiyan God is a 7, I think he said, then Bills is a 10, and if he's a 10, then his person. Do you remember his name? Was it Wills or fuck?
Basically, Wills. It was basically Willis.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever. That guy's a 15. So there's like big jumps. I believe those numbers are right. Fuck. Now I want to check it out.
Well, he's the strongest in that universe. So, but I mean, obviously, he wasn't very interested in fighting. He was interested in eating. That's all he did. That's all he spent.
That's why he was there.
That's kind of why I'm saying, like, if we look at all these powerful people, how many of them would we actually see would we actually be able to see as antagonists, and how many would be like good guys, allies, or indifferent? Like, if we say like there's maybe half of them, how many villains did Goku fight throughout the entire run of Dragon Ball?
Well, I think, in my opinion, you're kind of missing the point. To me, it's not the point that they are potential villains. It's just the fact that there are stronger people out there. To me, that's important anyway.
No, I don't-
Jackie
no.
Chun didn't have to fucking be evil, but just the fact that he was stronger than the Kid Goku made that world still feel like there was more to explore.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is, because we have a cap or whatever
With the 12.
with
yeah.
the 12 universes or
Okay.
whatever, how many of those people would we viably be able to see as opponents for Goku or Vegeta or whatever, or everybody, to where, like, basically to lead up to the end of, like, if we were to lead up to the end of Dragon Ball, like, where would it cap? And
Well, I think
and if we look at the entire run of the series, like, we look at the number of antagonists, villains, people that Goku's fought throughout the entire run, I feel like even with the introduction that there's 12 universes or whatever, we might just have another equal run if we were to explore those other universes.
I agree with you. Are those universes explorable in general? Is it going to expand in that way? I don't think so, because even though we know this information, I think they're still going to stay in that
universe,
realm.
in Universe 7.
So it was just a really big picture, I think.
I disagree. I mean, I think it depends on which way they want to take it, but if they want to keep making movies, I absolutely think that we could start expanding into these different universes and finding out. Because I think that there's sort of something oddly...
We've entered the dead zone.
Something oddly stagnant about the character design and fighting style of Dragon Ball up to this point, and I think that they could really break that mold if they want to,
Yeah.
with different universes and stuff.
It's cool because Bill's character was actually very...
He was very pinpoint. Like he was
Interesting.
about like pressure points and that sort of
Yeah.
thing in his fighting style. That was fascinating.
And he was very interesting in design, too. He was a cat jackal thing.
Well, the way I evaluate Battle of Gods is that it's really Toriyama's take on Dragon Ball, because by all accounts his editors had a lot to do with, like, they handled him very carefully as he made Dragon Ball Z, like the Z era of Dragon Ball. Like he had all these other ideas that he wanted to do that they kind of like had to focus his creative energy, and I think we would have got more villains that were more silly, like Beers or Bills, had it been up to him, you know?
Yeah.
Because, Cell and Frieza, they're not terribly different in terms of how they act.
But Cell's initial design was amazing.
Yeah, it was cool.
So yeah, going back to the first question, who would you compare Cell to?
It's a Whis. Fuck.
So
Yeah,
Whis.
you know what? I think it's funny because Smoker really is kind of, in a way, the best choice. I was trying to
Right.
think about it, and in a way, Smoker has a very clear goal. It's very simple, because it's important that Nick mentioned that, because if we're just talking about like fighting styles or like how strong they are, well, Cell doesn't really match with any of them.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just entirely different. It's
Yeah.
a different universe.
It's a different style entirely.
In the 11th universe.
Yeah, maybe
That's what One Piece is.
Maybe One Piece is the
a different-
11th universe
One
or
Piece
something like that.
One Piece is a different universe. Oh
Yes.
my god.
It's
Dude, that'd be
magical.
crazy. Toriko's
Toriko.
another one.
Yeah, Hunter x Hunter and fucking Full Metal Alchemist. They're all different universes.
All the best of the best of the
Well,
best.
I think definitely Toriko and
Fairy
and
Tail.
One Piece.
Wah, wah.
It didn't make the universe list.
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
You go to
I
the
think-
Fairy Tail universe and like, meh, believe.
I definitely think that Toriko and One Piece would fit in as one of the alternate universes. I mean, they even did those crossover OVAs.
Yeah, I mean, obviously those aren't canon. Those are just for fun.
No, I know they're
Well,
just
I
for fun,
defi-
but
I
it would
definitely
be
feel
pretty
like-
interesting.
I definitely feel like the spirit of Dragon Ball has carried on through One Piece, and that there are similarities between One Piece and Toriko. So
Yeah.
I could sort of see that they all have a similar spirit to one another. They're pretty different, obviously.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I think that's an important point to make. That Cell, he had like a very focused, small goal, really.
Yeah.
And that's sort of how Smoker functions, even though he's much less villainous about it.
Yeah.
In a way, he's a good guy, really.
Yeah. So, also taking a look at it, we see that which cell fits Smoker best? Which of the three?
You know what? I made that point, Nick. Okay, yesterday I made this point. We were talking about Cell and Frieza, and I was saying that okay, think about all of Frieza's different forms.
Okay.
He always seems like Frieza. He never seems like a different character. Where to me, the three main Cell forms, because there's also that like weird
The
embryonic
weird larva
yeah.
thing?
They all seem like different characters almost.
Like different mentalities of
yeah,
characters.
Yeah, would you agree with that? Like they almost carry themselves in an entirely different way.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely. It's that one's.
It's
That makes
fascinating,
sense. Yeah, Frieza does stay like Frieza's just a fucking little bitch the whole time. Like 4 forms, just being a bitch. And then Cell just progressively turns monster into beast into tank. And he does have different mentalities the whole way too. He's trying to figure out how to get shit done in his second form. It's like, okay, I'm fucking stressing because I only got one of them. I gotta find the other one. Shit.
So would you?
He was really stressing in the second form because fucking Trunks and Vegeta were both stronger.
They're
than him.
Yeah.
they're catching up like real fast. Like, oh, I don't know what I'm gonna do now.
Okay. So would you say? So would you think that it's accurate for us to say that personality-wise, the first form fits Smoker?
I really. Oh yeah.
And would you say like and kind of would you say like?
I don't think any of them really match Smoker that well. I just think if
I'm
we're
just
gonna-
talking about like personality-wise in terms of like the idea of pursuit. He was very much in pursuit of them.
Well, then almost he had 2 goals in his first form, and then he had 1 goal really in his second form,
Okay.
which was Android 17 or 18. I'm sorry. So in a way,
Or are we? Or sorry. We're looking at Cell as a whole. If we look at Cell as a whole, his whole thing is he's going after Goku, right?
Yeah.
In that sense, he fits Smoker because Smoker's just going after Luffy.
well then Perfect Cell fits the best.
Yeah, Perfect Cell fits that the best, but at the same time, he doesn't. Because he's very much like dicking around. He kind of fits with Goku's character a little bit.
I think what we're finding is that Cell doesn't really match anybody that well.
He kind of fits.
In
I
a way,
almost-
I kind of
They're both unique characters.
I almost want to say
They're
that he
both
kind of
pretty
fits
unique.
Luffy's character too in
a way,
Perfect Cell.
If I'm being entirely honest, I think the way that he carries himself, like there's a regalness and a cockiness. I almost feel like just in terms of his air, he reminds me of Crocodile the most.
A little bit.
So really, he doesn't fit anybody that well in One Piece, is what we're finding. I think, like in terms of just his presence, he reminds me of Crocodile more than Smoker.
It's like
but
his
in terms of
president's-
personality. Well, I mean, in terms of one facet of his personality, it's definitely more Smoker.
Yeah.
Would that make sense, Nick?
Yeah.
And then we look at like each of his individual forms, and each individual form has like more of a focused like kind of connection to someone as well. So it's one of those. It's weird. But I think we were talking about this. It's good that we brought this up because we were talking about this yesterday. Comparing Frieza with Cell.
Yeah.
It's like I forget who brought it up or who said this. It was either you or me because we were the only ones talking about it. But
Definitely one of us.
yeah, it was definitely one of us. But it was that Frieza, he stays consistent throughout his forms because he's always had that power.
Yeah.
He's always had that maximum power. But he's just been suppressing it. So it's not so much that he's growing more powerful with each form. He's just kind of releasing the seal on his power a little bit at a time.
Cock tease. Cock tease. That's all he is. He's like,
Basically.
look what I could do.
whereas we look at Cell and it's like with each change in form, he's gaining a massive amount of power, and it's power that he's not used to, that he hasn't had before.
Yeah, and as I said yesterday, like, if all of a sudden you woke up and you were 100 times stronger than you were the day before, you wouldn't be the same person. Like,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
would react with the world around you much differently.
Yeah.
You know, so you're right. Frieza's always had that, and he even says, like, he needs to, like, kind of hone, and because otherwise he can't control himself at full strength.
Yeah.
So he needs to make himself much weaker. It's weird, you know.
Yeah.
We're sort of talking, like, what's biological and what's not on Frieza's, like, first forms and stuff.
Yeah.
You know? And then his third form we were talking about, too. Like, what the fuck is that thing?
That one just doesn't make any sense.
Do you remember his third form, Nick?
yeah, it's fucking weird.
Okay, first form,
just
he's like
doesn't-
little and spiky. He's got horns. Second form, he's bigger and buffer. Third form, what the fuck?
yeah.
Third form, he's a weird
fuck,
lizard
moment?
creature. Fourth form makes perfect sense if he was going from second form to fourth form, because it'd just be like going from like Ascended Saiyan or whatever to Super Saiyan 2.
It's a pattern in Toriyama's work that characters, like small characters, are strong. Like small, sleek
Yeah.
characters that have good mobility. It's clear that that's what he appreciates. I mean, even in Battle of Gods, it's clear because
Goku becomes very much
he's
more
like thin, really.
slender, yeah.
He's like taller and leaner than anything, really.
Yeah.
And I think Toriyama made that point, like, because that was one of his inputs that he had, where the animators wanted him to be like a different design. He's like, I wanted him to essentially look like Goku, but just a little different, you know. So
Yeah, just slightly different.
yeah.
I'm assuming they wanted some weird, crazy like Super Saiyan 4 form.
And you even see it with Kid Buu. You see it with Vegeta when he was introduced. You see
Yeah,
it all
Kid
over
Buu.
and over again that these
Fucking Kid Buu.
that these smaller characters, that these really mobile characters are like the most powerful. And
Yeah.
and as we've talked about, he goes out of his way to say that being bulkier and stronger, that's not a good thing.
Exactly. Like it weighs down Vegeta. It makes him weaker against Cell.
Trunks also, especially.
Trunks. It does that to Trunks as well. It does that to Cell during the tournament when he gets pissed off and then he just makes himself all buff and stuff or
The
whatever.
one inconsistency I see with this is that it doesn't affect Frieza. Because when Frieza goes 100%, he's pretty buff. Like, he gets buffed out, but it's not like a negative.
True, but he's also smaller than his second form. He's still like
That's
as
true.
buff as he is. He's still a lot smaller than his second form.
I was wondering, like, why don't they ever use that form of Super Saiyan? Like the Ascended Ultra Saiyan, you know, it's before Super Saiyan 2, but why don't they use that muscular form for like slow opponents? Like, like just something that they need to blast really hard.
Do
Yeah.
they ever?
You know what I mean?
Do they ever come across slow, weak opponents?
I guess that's true.
It's like as time goes on, they just keep meeting stronger and stronger and stronger
Yeah.
opponents to the point where it's like,
In the movies, at least, like Broly, like come on, like Broly, like they're all like buffed out, like fighting Broly. I think Broly is pretty quick, but you know, whatever.
Yeah.
stupid Broly. Oh man.
I was just trying to think of like how to relate why he made it that way between, you know, bigger is worse and smaller. I'm just thinking of like football,
Okay,
like football and the difference between football and foosball. Or is it foosball?
foosball.
Are you talking about like soccer and football?
No.
The foosball table?
in England.
Okay.
In England,
Soccer.
Oh, you're talking about rugby?
rugby.
Oh,
rugby.
foosball. Foosball's the game, dude.
Yeah, foosball's a tabletop game.
Shit.
Rugby. Okay.
Yeah, the difference between American football and rugby is they don't have helmets and they're a lot smaller in
Yeah.
rugby because, you know, you tackle somebody at 350 fucking pounds, you're gonna get brain damage.
Yeah.
So smaller is better.
Well, I
in
think about
rugby
it in
than
terms of
football.
MMA, like, because the weight class in heavyweight in the UFC and in other MMA organizations, it's 206 pounds to 265 pounds. So it's a much bigger
Yeah,
amount
There's a
of
much
weight.
bigger
Huge,
scale range.
Yeah. So,
weight range.
so for a while there was these super heavyweights that people thought were going to dominate the division. Guys like Shane Carwin and Brock Lesnar. They thought, like, because they were weighing in around 265, around the
because
limit.
they were so
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah, but really the guys that have always been the best heavyweights are the guys who are more around the 230, 240 range.
They're
They beat
quicker. They're lighter on their feet.
They beat up the 265 guys.
Yeah.
Because they have better endurance. It's like there's a point of diminishing return even in real life.
Yeah.
Where Cain Velasquez at 240 is going to fuck up Brock Lesnar at 270. He just will. I mean, he did. So it's really fascinating that in real life there really is a point of diminishing return. And Toriyama fucking 20 years ago.
He was pointing that out.
Yeah, he wrote a little silly comic about that. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
It's pretty epic.
It's pretty epic.
Pretty epic.
Yeah.
So
I always like that for Trunks too, because I always felt like there was something about Trunks that was kind of like he wasn't that seasoned compared to other guys as a fighter. You know, so I like that he didn't realize what he was doing was wrong against Cell.
Sounds
Yeah.
like my brother doesn't realize what he's doing.
It's always fucking Trunks and your brother.
Oh man, my brother loved Trunks too.
So
I love Trunks. I love Future
Yeah.
Trunks. He's
Future
one of my
Trunks
favorite
is pretty
characters.
awesome.
His introduction is a fucking masterpiece.
Dude, in the
it's badass, right?
Yeah, my favorite version of Gohan is Future Gohan.
Really?
Yeah, I love Future Gohan.
Armless.
It's my favorite character.
I was watching a video and they were talking about why isn't Future Gohan stronger? Because it's 13 years in the future, and
we were talking about this.
yeah, like, what do you think about that, Nick? It's 13
Um,
years in the future, and he's still not able to take on these androids that aren't really as strong as the modern storyline androids.
It's pretty much a different universe. I
Yeah.
think it went from future universe to what's happening now, and just that small happening between Trunks coming back and whatnot is what separated that universe. And Gohan just didn't expand the way he should have because he was who was the last one to go. So at the beginning they explained who died.
The
and
last
shit
one,
like that.
the last one to die was Gohan.
It was.
Well, do you mean before Gohan?
Yeah.
I think it was inferred that Piccolo and Vegeta go first, but I don't know who dies after that. I think
Well,
it's not that important.
Technically, Goku goes first.
Those are
because he's
his
sick.
Well, not to the
training-
androids though. He dies too.
Right.
Yeah.
But
to
he's the
heart
first
virus.
one gone. But that's another thing. Like they don't get the foreshadowing of Goku's illness or whatever, so they don't have a cure for Goku's illness. Goku dies, so he's not there to help them out. Piccolo dies really early on because they aren't able to wish Goku back. So there's no Dragon Balls to wish him back. Vegeta goes. He's probably the only one that probably had around the same level of strength that he had when he was introduced.
Yeah.
But he was still extremely weak against the androids that were introduced in the main timeline.
Really quick, I want to say that there is a rule with the Dragon Balls that you can't wish somebody back who died of natural causes. So you wouldn't have been able to. You wouldn't have been able to wish Goku back anyway.
So
And also, they didn't
yeah.
have the cure at all. Then Trunks had to bring the cure back from the future.
that's
There
what
was no cure.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There was no cure. They didn't have it.
Apparently, it didn't have an expiration date. It's grape flavor.
So like we have all these factors that contribute to why they weren't prepared the first time around. Like he brought this up. Why isn't it doesn't make sense it didn't make sense for you, Alex, that Gohan was so weak either.
No, I just think you can make a case that he should have been much stronger. That's 13
Yeah.
years.
Whereas-
Gohan, as a 12-year-old, hits Super Saiyan 2 and is able to beat Cell in modern timeline.
True,
So,
but we look at that. That's also in the future because they spend time in the hyperbolic time chamber.
okay, yeah. So was he 12 or was he like 14?
I think he was like 14.
Well, still, it's fucking young compared
Oh yeah,
to...
so he wouldn't have been able to get that experience in the hyperbolic time chamber,
He
which
didn't-
is a year.
Yeah,
year's worth.
he wouldn't have been
And-
because Goku died of illness or whatever. He wouldn't have gotten any training from Goku once Goku got back to Earth.
Yeah, he would have been
He
just
would-
on his own
he would-
for too
he-
long.
He
I guess.
most likely would have been stuck studying and stuff because of Chi-Chi. He might have gotten a little bit of training, but then Goku would have gotten sick and died. He never would have gotten the hyperbolic time chamber training in which he learned to become a Super Saiyan and utilized that to make Super Saiyan the natural state, which helped lead into Super Saiyan 2.
Well, let's compare the
So
different power levels. Though.
So he would have made it to Super Saiyan. He still would have been powerful, but he wouldn't have developed in the same way that he developed in the regular timeline because he had mentors.
Think
that
of Trunks.
helped him grow.
Okay.
Think of Trunks when he fights Cell. So he pretty much ascends.
He becomes Ascended Saiyan.
Yeah,
or
ascends.
Rift and all that.
He comes back to the future and just demolishes the two androids.
Yeah. I don't know. Is that filler? I can't... I know it's, in a way, it's canon, but was that like a
can't-
filler mini arc?
I can't recall. I know he
me
goes.
either.
I know he comes back. The reason he comes back is it's to tell them that.
Well, in the anime, he fucking destroys them. It was so
Yeah.
badass. Oh my god, I love that.
And then he gets killed after destroying them by Cell.
That Trunks? No, there was a different timeline.
Future
Trunks.
Trunks.
There was a different timeline.
So it's a third timeline.
Yeah.
Damn. Oh my god. So many different timelines.
Yeah.
But yeah, he also gets killed by Cell in a different timeline.
Trunks has lived a very strange bunch of lives.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's interesting to note that it seems like Saiyans kind of, they kind of rise to their level of like what's around them almost.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So maybe that's why Gohan he didn't have his father as, he didn't have like these training partners. So in a way, maybe he just rose to a certain level and had a hard time breaking past that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
look at Goku developing as a child all the way up till, what was his age when he got attacked by Raditz?
Raditz, I think he was in his early 20s.
Power level was like 1200.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there, and it's just, okay. Took you this long to be this far. Look at your son Goten. He's already, Super Saiyan 3 when he fuses.
Yeah.
So it's just who you're surrounded by seems to be a logical explanation for why Gohan didn't get the proper training.
Did you say Go? Oh, you mean Gotenks, like when they fuse?
Yeah, when they fuse.
Yeah.
So Gotenks is what, 8 or some shit?
I think they're 8. Yeah. I think they're
So-
8. They're 8 and 9. Him and Trunks.
You
So, there's the theory that the reason that they're able to turn Super Saiyan so young and so much effortlessly is because Vegeta and Goku they already had the ability to be Super Saiyans.
They had already become Super Saiyan prior to their being conceived.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn.
That makes a little bit of sense.
Gonna be a son of a Super Saiyan.
It makes perfect sense when you consider the fact that Gohan actually had to train and work towards becoming a Super Saiyan.
Yeah.
Whereas for Goten and Trunks, it was almost like genius level
Is it
innate.
instinct?
Yeah.
Almost instinct. It's kind of cool. It's like, oh yeah, my dad can do that. I could do that too.
Well, like in the real world, these things kind of happen too, where nobody had done a 4-minute mile for like decades. They thought it was impossible, and somebody did it, and then a bunch of people were able to do it. So it's almost like the idea of being Super Saiyan is really difficult to get to, but once one person breaks through that mold, a lot of people are able to do it almost.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And maybe that's why Gohan never went Ascended Saiyan or Super Saiyan 2, was because I think Vegeta was the one who was like, you know what? I'm going to go to it the next level. Fuck it. You know what I mean? Or somebody else had the idea of the next step of Super Saiyan that wasn't Gohan. So maybe it just never even came into Gohan's mind that like, well, this isn't it. Like maybe he just thought this was as powerful as he could get in terms of like steps, in terms of like, his forms.
Huh. That makes sense. That makes sense.
It also
Gohan's
it also makes sense why Frieza would be so terrified of the Super Saiyan.
Yeah. Well, he was always worried about. I mean, at least if you take the Bardock special as canon, which he was always worried because they got very powerful in their Uzuru form.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So like if imagine if someone actually becomes a Super Saiyan form, and then it becomes more like if it's a genetic thing or whatever, it ends up becoming an entire race of Super Saiyans.
Well, we were talking about the genetic thing too yesterday a little bit too because of Bardock and the Dragon Ball Minus.
Yeah.
Nick, have you heard about this?
No.
Okay, well, Toriyama just released a chapter with he did the series called Jocko the Galactic Patrolman last year,
Okay.
and then they released the Tonk recently, and then in the Tonk he had an extra chapter, and in the extra chapter is like a little mini story of Bardock.
Oh shit.
Yeah, where we meet Gine, who is Goku's mom for the first time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Where she's
Yeah,
kind
I
of
had no idea.
she's kind of a unique Saiyan because she kind of cares.
Yeah, and actually, you know what? This is not the point I was trying to make. I was trying to go to the OVA. Did you know there's a more recent OVA of Bardock also?
Where he is the legendary Super Saiyan.
Yeah, he goes back in time. Okay, so it starts.
Oh, you know what? I think I did see. I think I watched the fucking abridged version.
I watched it first too.
Yeah, it sounds familiar. So okay, I know generally what you're.
Yeah,
Yeah, basically the energy blast warps him back into the past.
Yeah.
To Planet Vegeta before it was Planet Vegeta when it was still Plant.
Look, it was so funny on the abridged.
Yeah,
it was Saiyans. It was just Saiyans. It was, what the fuck are those? It's just weird, but yeah, I get your idea though.
Where like in that episode of Bardock we have Bardock as the legendary Super Saiyan or whatever, and then in Dragon Ball Minus we're seeing a more kind of human element towards Bardock as a character.
Yeah, I think in the original Bardock special, well, there's like two trains of thought. Like, do you like the idea of Bardock being the legendary Super Saiyan? And then that kind of leaves the door open for like, okay, well, it makes sort of sense that bloodline has created so many other Super Saiyans.
Well,
or does it take something away from Goku being a special character? Because I feel that could be applied to One Piece as well, in that, well, does it take something away from Luffy being special, that Dragon is his father, that Garp is his grandfather, that he seems to be following in the footsteps of Roger very closely?
I don't think it applies because I don't think it well, being that Goku had sons,
Yeah.
you have the idea that these sons are going to be, either more stronger or whatnot. Sorry, I'm not talking to the microphone. With One Piece, you have dedicated lines like bloodlines that are meant to be stronger and whatnot. I don't think
I don't know
in
if that's
Dragon Ball
necessarily true. I don't know.
Not entirely, yeah.
Because like Sabo is very powerful, and his dad was just a piece of shit. He was just
Yeah.
a fucking asshole.
I think if we look at both of them, in both cases, we look at if Goku's father was the legendary Super Saiyan, if because that also kind of helps with the theory of Gohan not reaching Super Saiyan until a younger age, or until having to work at it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like you look at Bardock or whatever. He's an adult. He reaches Super Saiyan. Goku reaches Super Saiyan as an adult. Gohan, who was Goku was born before Bardock reached Super Saiyan. Gohan was Gohan was born before Goku reached Super Saiyan, and in both those cases, they still had to work to reach it. And the only ones that didn't have to work at all was Goten and Trunks, because their parents were already at Super Saiyan when they were conceived.
I should say that Trunks, it's debatable with Trunks. We don't know. Like, the timeline is iffy for if he was conceived while Vegeta was a Super Saiyan or not.
That is, oh yeah, well yeah, that's true too. Right.
How'd you feel about Goten and Trunks being super Nick? They did it so effortlessly. Because
Sorry. For Trunks, it kind of makes sense that it would be more like he'd be a genius, because he's of like royal blood and all
that's
that.
just some shit that fucking Vegeta spouts constantly.
It is, but it also
the Prince of all Saiyans. There's like 4 Saiyans. Get over it.
Well, now there's a bunch. Now there's a bunch.
He kills Nappa. Like, fucking, come on. Apparently you don't care that much. That's what I never got. Okay, he kills Nappa. Like, he doesn't give a fuck. He fucking kills him. And then Frieza's about to kill him, and he's like, oh, Saiyans and shit. Like, come on. You fucking killed Nappa like a couple, 100 chapters ago.
What the
fuck?
shit, Vegeta? Jesus, I thought you were on the Saiyan side.
Okay, Nick, I wanted to ask
well, maybe Nappa was just a dick to him.
How did you feel about Goten and Trunks becoming Super Saiyan so effortlessly? Because to me, it was okay that Gohan became Super Saiyan so young. Because to me, he was always it was foreshadowed very clearly that he's special. That when he is enraged, he gets fucking strong really fast.
Yeah.
You know, there was always very obvious a hidden amount of power inside of him. But Goten and Trunks, they're just some fucking 8-year-olds. I mean, they're Saiyans, blah blah blah. But how did you feel when you experienced that all those years ago for the first time?
All those years ago, I didn't really think about it. I wasn't caring. It's like, holy shit, Goten's fucking Super Saiyan. Oh my god! But I was like 8. But thinking about it now, I don't think it bothers me. Honestly, I don't think it bothers me because Gohan was pretty young anyways. I think he was 12 when he turned Super Saiyan.
Yeah.
Goten was 8.
But I think it's only filler, but I think Goten just turned Super Saiyan because Chi-Chi was being mean to him when they were training.
Oh, yeah.
Where Gohan, he had to go through some shit, man. Like, he was, in a lot of emotional turmoil. His dad and him were training in the hyperbolic time chamber.
Well, he also had a different personality than Goten.
It's true.
Like, if Goten was very quick to anger, and Trunks were quick to anger or whatever, like, what triggered Goku...
It's not about anger, though. It's not about anger that gets you to Super Saiyan.
What triggered Goku turning into Super Saiyan?
Krillin dying.
Yeah, Krillin died.
Like Piccolo almost dying.
It was basically like extreme stress.
Yeah.
And that's what triggered Gohan's Super Saiyan 2. So, for all we know, Goten's bratty temper or whatever, Trunks' dad,
That's dad.
basically those attributed to them feeling some sort of stress that triggered it.
Well, I'm sure that's it, but it just seems.
I mean, definitely for Trunks.
Flimsy,
I think definitely for Trunks or whatever. The fact that his dad is
right. It seems so flimsy
Vegeta.
compared to okay, you had to watch your best friend get killed in front of you. You had to go through the hyperbolic time chamber. You, Vegeta, had to leave Earth and fucking almost kill yourself training. All these things make sense to me. Where they're like, oh, my mom was being mean. We don't even fucking know about Trunks really. I don't even think there's a filler part. Where
he may have, for all we know, he may have just been getting slapped around by Vegeta.
The idea that being surrounded by stronger individuals, that's why Gohan didn't ascend into ascended Saiyan to beat the fucking androids in the future series. When you're surrounded more by stronger people, you'll end up being stronger.
Yeah.
I think that might be something a factor in Saiyans or factor in the universe.
I think it's a factor in people.
That actually might be
the whole thing.
That's
Winners.
actually a good point. That's actually a very good point. Yeah.
So
what? Sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I was just saying it was a good point. God damn it.
There's that whole thing about winners like to surround themselves with winners. I think it's similar. I think you rise to your level in your environment. So it's similar with Gohan. I see that. It makes sense to me. And because again, I always sort of saw Gohan as a bit of a genius as a fighter. It wasn't in his nature to be a fighter, but he was brilliant at it anyway.
Yeah, it seemed like he wasn't exactly the innovator.
It's almost like he's exceedingly gentle, and because he's so gentle, he's a great fighter. It's like his will,
weird,
his
yeah.
will to be gentle. He's so different than Goku. His will to want to be gentle towards the masses
Whereas Goten-
makes him very powerful towards the few.
I think that's a good point to make, because you look at Goten and Trunks, and they both kind of idolize their fathers.
Oh, dude, we're at 36 minutes. Do you want to do an arc review?
No. I think we're gonna have to postpone it.
I got to be completely honest. I agree. Like this podcast has been largely a Dragon Ball podcast.
I think we're gonna have to postpone it. Real quick before we go,
Thanks for coming into your Dragon Ball Authority, where your source for all things Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball related.
real quick before we go,
You should listen to Kensenchu. It's a better
Yeah.
Dragon Ball podcast than we
It
are.
really is.
We still got a few minutes. We still got a few minutes.
Real quick before we go, just to kind of bring this back along, comparing Dragon Ball and One Piece, we made this revelation earlier. You look at Dragon Ball Z, and it's basically the way it continues its story or whatever, and it's basically like we're following Goku through his life, through his entire life. Luffy, we're just following a couple years. Like, both are really great stories, but they're also very completely different. And it's we look at Dragon Ball Z, we haven't been able to think of a single series yet that follows their plot that follows a plot in the exact same way or a similar way that Dragon Ball Z does, or Dragon Ball does.
Yeah, it's something I've always really appreciated about Dragon Ball, and I wanted your opinion on this, Nick, is that I like to compare and contrast Dragon Ball and One Piece, because they're two of my fucking favorite things in the world. So, I think, like, one of the things that Dragon Ball 100% has over One Piece is that we meet Goku as a 12-year-old boy, and then 42 volumes later, we leave Goku as a 50-year-old grandpa. And we're not going to get that with Luffy. And I think that's beautiful. I think that's fucking cool.
That's a lifelong story.
Yeah, it's beautiful, right?
It's one of those things, like, we haven't seen that in anything. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen that in anything except for Dragon Ball Z.
I think that's why it's so
Dragon
good.
It really is. Like, we were thinking about it yesterday, and we were like, aside from just One Piece, literally any series. We can't think of any series where we meet them as young people, and then we see the steps of their life up to the point that it's like it's something that makes Dragon Ball really special, kind of.
Yeah, you don't really see that.
We're basically following his entire life.
Yeah.
At that point, it's almost kind of like we're growing up with him.
Yeah, I think that too. Like, we meet him literally as a 12-year-old, and he's a little jungle boy, and he can smash rocks, but he's not. He's very obtuse to, like, social standards and stuff.
Yeah.
I think the Dragon Ball Z series in general would be an awesome TV show to grow up with. It was awesome. For me.
It was awesome for us.
Yeah, it was so good. It was like a perfect age of just like, okay, it was so exciting when I watched that first episode. I'm like, okay, they're fighting. I want to fight too.
What was your first experience? I remember mine.
I was at my grandmother's house. And
oh, really?
Yeah, it was on one of the...
That's actually my first experience too.
That's super weird.
It was on the Spanish channel too.
I watched.
So I watched it. I'm like,
that's the first time I saw Perfect Cell was in the Spanish channel. I thought it was awesome. I was like, what the fuck is
Yeah.
going on? Okay, sorry.
I was so young. I was like, I honestly, I think I was 8. I was down there and just sitting in my grandma's garage watching some TV, just flipping through the channels. So I was so damn bored. So, as a kid going down to grandma's house is just a little bit boring.
Yeah, of course.
So just sitting there and you see like explosions. So I'm like instant, like yes.
What was it? What was going on?
I think it was I'm thinking Frieza.
Me too.
Yeah, I think it was Frieza. Not particularly Goku though. But either way, it was a really instantaneous connection. So like flip the channels, it's like you hear just I'm like my eyes get all big. I love this. Dude, I don't even know it.
Dude, mine was very similar. I was I think I was 9 and it was they played Toonami Midnight Run back then, so it was like 12 o'clock and they'd play like a couple shows.
Yeah.
And I've always been like a night oul. So I was flipping through channels, and here is fucking Goku, and he's already a Super Saiyan. Like, this is my first time ever seeing Dragon Ball. He's already a Super Saiyan. He's fighting Frieza. Fucking Namek is about to explode. Like, this shit is just such an epic picture to like fucking like randomly stumble on.
Yeah.
And it stuck with me that whole time. I was like obsessed right away.
Dang, that's crazy.
Yeah.
My first time watching it, I just remember I was at my grandma's house. I was pretty young, and it was pretty early on when it was actually pretty early on because I first.
So you popped your DBZ cherry pretty young.
Yeah. Good,
pretty
good
much.
for you.
It was in the middle of fighting Raditz.
Okay,
So
that's cool. I wish I had seen that. I didn't get to really experience that until quite a while I
think where you started out though was probably fucking epic as hell.
It
because,
was.
dude. So like,
yeah.
how good is this gonna get?
If you think about it, kids don't have that anymore. Literally, Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z is on Hulu. So if a kid wants to start watching it, you can watch it from episode 1. Like,
Basically.
I feel like in our time, we would just start watching shows whenever the hell we could start watching them. You know what I mean?
miss that. I miss that.
It's kind of cool because you kind of like delve into a mythology and see and like just start picking up the pieces, sort of. And learn.
Yeah.
You kind of learn of the characters in the middle. It's weird, and kids don't have to do that anymore.
I like that experience more because like I've watched series from beginning to end, and every time I watch them from beginning to end or whatever, it's just like this feels entirely different than when I watch stuff on TV. It's just one of those things. Like I watch Dragon Ball Z on TV or whatever, and if I was to go through and watch it all through one sitting or whatever,
It's a different connection.
Yeah, I don't-
Stumbling on it is like a different connection than starting from the beginning and watching it till the end.
'Cause, like,
I feel like something kids are gonna lack now because they could always know like, oh, I'll just DVR it and I'll fucking watch it from the beginning. You know what I mean? Like they don't have to like randomly start watching shit. Like we
Yeah.
had to kind of.
yeah.
You didn't?
Well, I don't know. Just thinking, not that. Sorry, kids nowadays not experiencing that. They have something completely different, and whether they grasp the idea like we grasp this idea, it might it could be a positive factor. But
Well, it could be positive.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's negative. I'm just saying it's different. It's different that
Yeah, it is
like we
different.
didn't. Well, I didn't have a choice. Like when I
basic-
got into a TV show, I just had to get in the TV show from where it was.
Yeah.
Essentially.
That's how I got into One Piece too. It's just like
Me too, but it was pretty.
just
It's pretty.
right in
It's
there.
pretty close to the beginning for me with One Piece.
I
I
started
think-
from the beginning.
Yeah,
I think I got into it. Buggy.
me too. I saw Buggy. I saw Buggy and the Four Kids. That's
Yeah.
the first thing I think I saw.
Okay, so it was pretty early
It
on.
was really early on. Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't miss much. Shanks, whatever.
Shanks.
It's not that big a deal.
Yeah,
Like that's ever gonna come back up again. The whole Shanks thing.
Or like Digimon.
I think I started watching Digimon from close to the beginning.
I
It was
started
one
there.
of those things though, where like if I missed an episode, I just fucking missed that episode. Like
No, yeah,
Yeah.
that's one of those things. You
I
miss
got
an
really
episode of
serious into
anything,
that
you-
one.
Digimon?
Yeah, I got
Oh, did
pretty
you really?
serious. Yeah.
Dude, I love that show.
How many
but
seasons did you watch? I watched the first 2. Me too. Everybody seems to have the same story. We
I
watched
watched the first 2. I watched the third one, which was okay.
I watched some of it.
It wasn't the same people, and it was a little different because they tried to implement the card game and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But like, the further on the story got, the better it got. Actually,
Really?
yeah, like it had an interesting dark plot to it. The fourth one I didn't like. That was weird.
I think-
like it was the kids turning into Digimon or whatever.
I think the movie hit me home more.
Movie
than
was
anything.
so
I love
good.
The movie,
It was
dude.
awesome.
The movie was
amazing.
badass. That's such a
Dude.
good movie.
Probably actually one of the greatest animation films I've ever seen.
It's fucking good.
It's up there, yeah.
Because it,
I want to rewatch it because it's been a lot. I don't want to say that, but dude,
Oh,
I
yeah.
loved it when
No.
I saw it. You
No,
know?
I saw it again, older, and it still held up.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked the first 2 seasons because it was a continuation of season 1.
Yeah.
You know, like Ty was just older and shit. That's fine.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and then
It
I
got weird.
lost it in season 3 personally.
Basically because it, that's I can see why a lot of people did because it wasn't the original characters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it basically it felt very inconsistent. It took a different. I think they wanted to take a different route from Pokemon. Where Pokemon just straight up followed the same,
That's true. They
the same
had
people
competition.
throughout the entire time, whereas Digimon instead was like, okay, we'll just make each anime a different, each season of the anime a different set of
Yeah.
protagonists.
Well, I mean,
and
look
explore
which
different
one
ideas.
won. You know, Pokemon is still kind of go. Nobody likes it, but
The anime sucks
yeah,
horribly.
Yeah, but it's still going right. So
yeah,
Yeah.
they kind of did have competition. They tried to make it their own, and they did. They successfully did it. But Pokemon was just a hard hitter in Japan, and kind of.
It's weird because like I like the original Pokemon games and all the Pokemon games they're still very successful and they're still relatively hold up to the older
Yeah,
versions.
I thought it was pretty
But,
interesting that Ash originally starts in the series with Clefairy.
yeah, that was the they wanted to start like Clefairy was going to
Clefairy
be
was the mascot.
yeah, it was going to be the mascot initially, and then they decided Pikachu was a little bit more gender neutral. Like he was cute enough for girls and
Yeah.
kind of masculine and cool enough for boys.
Yeah.
I just learned that one off of Uberfacts.
I want to buy a 3DS just to play X and Y. Like watching it, it's a 3D One Piece game. Oh my god! I mean a Pokemon game. Oh, I want to
yeah,
fucking play it so
I've
bad.
seen others play it, and it seems pretty
It
cool.
looks sexy as fuck. I
Yeah.
really want to play it. You could customize your character
To
and
be
shit.
completely honest, I kind of want them to do. I know it's Pocket Monsters, but
Oh, we got like a minute.
I want them to
or
make
so.
like a console game, like a legitimate console game.
It's closer to a console game than ever before.
yeah.
So,
So is it about that time?
yeah, we got a couple like about a minute left. I want to keep it below a certain.
I think then we should probably get ready to wrap things up.
God damn, was this a weird podcast, everybody?
Yeah, we were talking about Dragon Ball Z most of the time.
Yeah,
and
that took up a bulk of it, but we also talked about a lot of series. Talked about
We talked a lot of serious things too.
it was dark early on. I'm kind of happy we got off the fucked up stuff at the beginning.
But it's good to get it out and talk about it, but hopefully we don't have to talk about that again for a while.
Well, it's fine in doses.
Yeah.
Damn, we didn't. Oh fuck! I kind of wanted to go in more depth with you, Nick, about like that whole idea that Dragon Ball, like that sets it so much apart from One Piece. We don't have time for it. Maybe next podcast. Maybe we'll get back to it.
Yeah, we didn't get to go into our every arc ever thing this time, but don't worry about it. Next week we'll go over that. We lost episode 2, so we're gonna have to go over that every arc ever segment as well.
Which was Jaya and Little Garden, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then
so we'll probably end up going over some of the other stuff that we talked about in that.
and if
arc
we
too.
have time, we'll do Drum also, but probably not. We'll see. We'll see.
So we'll see. Alrighty. Have a good one, guys.
Anyway, everybody, we love you. You all take care. You subscribe and like and all that beautiful stuff. We're
Enjoy
out.
it.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Take care.